you laugh at it because you realise it is kind of ridiculous from that perspective.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the 4th episode of the Audiobook Club podcast. I'm Michael.
I'm Stephen.
I'm Jonathan.
Today we're doing The Humans by Matt Haig. I'm just going to start by giving a brief summary of what the book is about. So prior to the beginning of the story, a mathematics professor of Cambridge University, Professor Andrew Martin, solved the Riemann hypothesis. So this is a mathematical problem regarding the distribution of prime numbers. In solving this, humans will unlock a means to profound technological advancement and progress, but an advanced alien civilization sees humans as psychologically primitive. They're dangerous and they're impulsive, so they see this ability to advance their space travel and their technology as a direct threat to other galaxies and their own existence. So this is where our narrator comes in. After Professor Andrew Martin is neutralized, one of the aliens is sent to Earth and assuming his identity. He is now tasked with identifying those who know about Professor Martin's discovery, and he has to eliminate them. A bit on why I picked this book. I picked this book because I've read this book a few times before. This is the third time that I read it once. I listened to the audiobook once, so this is the third time that I've read or listened to it. I love this book. It's a book that I identified with very deeply when I first read it. I find the book really, really funny, and I find it heartbreaking at times as well. And I think it's an interesting book to do. Like after our previous episode doing 2001: A Space Odyssey, that book basically raises the question of what is the place of humanity. Well, this book is more focused on the individual. What is the place of the individual human within humanity? So I guess we'll go on to plot guess reveals from last week, how accurate they were. Guys, do you each want to go over again what you remember giving as your guess?
I remember saying that the dog, something about the dog, it's from the perspective of the dog or something.
Yeah, so you said that this book was from the perspective of a dog and just observing human life. And Jonathan, do you remember what your guess was?
Yeah, mine was just to add to Stephen's that the dog somehow ended up in space.
So both of you were very clearly thrown off by the cover. Yeah, which I can completely see why you guessed that, given what the cover is. And I told you straight after the episode that the cover was misleading. Who do you think came closer between you two?
Well, no, I don't think either of us came closer because the dog doesn't go to space.
So you think
I know that's where you're leaning with this,
completely void?
I think it's completely void.
I don't know. I think
the dog did not go to space. He specifically says the dog goes to space, and he did.
Said the word space, like.
Yeah, I did wonder over this because I was thinking, does Jonathan's guess of the dog going to space, does this make it further away from the truth, or does it make it closer to the truth? And Stephen, as you have guessed, that I have sided with the fact it makes it closer, just for the simple fact that it is closer to the actual genre of the book. And the dog interacts with a creature from space, so
yeah, but I don't know.
Like, they're both very off guesses, but I would say just for the sheer fact that Jonathan got slightly more in the genre, I would say that Taz was slightly more accurate by 0.1%.
But a nepotism going on here.
Do you accept my ruling?
No, I don't, but whatever.
I guess Jonathan gets another point, so that means Jonathan has 2 points. Me and Stephen both have 0.
I think it might be over before it's already started. Like.
Jonathan's pulling up a handsome lead here.
Didn't have to be this way, Michael. I slapped you a tenner, like.
So our story begins when Andrew Martin arrives, well, an alien, presumed to be Andrew Martin, arrives stark naked in Cambridge. He is forced to quickly pick up things on Earth. There's a lot of comedy in this beginning section where he doesn't understand the social norms of wearing clothes, and he quickly picks up English by reading an issue of Cosmopolitan, and he conflates then the idea of how important having orgasms is on this planet. What did you guys think of the beginning of this book and like the overall premise? Did the idea draw you in? Did you find it an interesting idea to explore?
Well, within the first 10 minutes, I was hooked. I thought it was amazing. I thought it was so funny and so interesting, and I couldn't put it down. I think, as you'll know from our text conversation, I think I finished it in 2 days. 2 days.
Yeah,
like, flat.
I was extremely surprised by that.
I couldn't put it down. Whereas if you contrast it against 2001, it took me so long. But this, I couldn't put it down. It was so good. And like the start of the book, I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, because I've read this book 3 times, but I don't think I've ever read it in 2 days. So that was a shock that you'd just completely blazed through it. What about you, Jonathan? What did you think about the beginning and the setup to the book?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Stephen. It just kind of got me straight away. I thought it was him running about naked, especially, obviously opened kind of as a comedy book. So, as you did say before, it goes into some, deeper kind of human things later in the book. But I think they start off with just that kind of comedic part of it. That kind of, definitely drew me in.
The thing I found about it is that, it started funny, right, and that's where the hooks kind of got onto me, but then it kind of evolves into more of a what am I trying to say, like a heartfelt sort of thing going on with
definitely
the sun and everything.
Yeah, because I think like the extraterrestrial that is Andrew, the narrator, he starts off, he's disgusted kind of humans. He thinks and he doesn't know what to think of them really. And it says as he connects more, it becomes a different book. So the book kind of changes its tone as he changes his arc.
Yeah, the book changes as he changes, definitely, which was really fun to see.
I think in the middle, it becomes more of like a black comedy. Then
it goes to like a comedy, to like a black comedy, to like a heartfelt thing, to like a thriller towards the end.
I know, yeah, it's a lot of different places it goes to. After the beginning, he's taken to a psychiatric institution. He convinces the person seeing him that it was a momentary lapse, and then after that we're introduced to Isabel, and shortly after that Gulliver and Newton, who are basically our core cast of characters. So I guess I'll start. What did you guys think of the extraterrestrial anyway? Who was Andrew? What did you think of his arc and
well, supposed extraterrestrial?
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
I'll go on to that later.
I think it's a very difficult thing to do. What Matt Haig is trying to do, it's like you're trying to write from the perspective of like an advanced life form who's supposed to be so much smarter than humans. So I think you have to suspend your disbelief a little bit on that and just accept like the comedic premise and go along with what he's doing there. What did you guys think of the main character, the narrator, who we see this story through?
I thought it was really interesting, to kind of follow the story through those sort of eyes, right? But I was also trying to like work out more about it, like where he came from. Like I was really interested to hear about like his home planet and all this here that was going on, and like why he was there and stuff. So I think that kind of kept me going as well. But from the story from his perspective, I thought it was very interesting. And just there's so much space for comedy there, where like because everything's weird to him, and his reactions are then funny. So yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, so from his point of view, obviously, as the higher life form, or more intelligent life form, he kind of thinks he's kind of going through just doing like daily, like human activities, kind of saying how stupid these ideas or whatever are, and why do humans do this? This is ridiculous. And then you kind of realize, you laugh at it because you realize it is kind of ridiculous from that perspective. So it kind of makes you realize how stupid and a lot of the things that we do actually would seem to an alien. So it's a very unique kind of point of view.
Yeah, like even when he's talking about like he's walking down the motorway and everybody's beeping at him because he's naked, and he wonders, is everybody honking the horn at him because he's not in a car? It's just stuff like that. It's just really funny.
Yeah, I laughed out loud a couple of times in this book, like when he this is getting into spoiler territory anyways, but I guess we're at that stage anyway, so we're going to start talking about things that happen later in the book. But as a spoiler, the son Gulliver, he's very clearly contemplating suicide and early in the book. Then he attempts it later in the book, and there's he says to him that fall won't kill you. If you want, I can take you to a higher roof. And I'm just like, and that's just one example of like the dark comedy in this. But
I can take you higher.
Yeah,
it was there was a bit after that where I laughed out loud. Well, it was a few times as well that I laughed out loud, but it was a bit after that where he attempts and everything, and he gets saved, and they're sitting on the park bench talking about it.
Yeah.
And he says about eating all the, like he took all the tablets. I can't remember what they were now. Diazepam, was it?
Yeah.
And Gulliver says to him, "Oh, you're off your tablets," and the alien goes like, "Well, you ate them all," and then I was passing myself laughing at that.
Yeah, I like how he does like he doesn't really understand how to use the F word properly, so he just like puts it on after every word he says whenever he starts talking to Gulliver, because Gulliver does it.
Yeah, I think the first time he meets Gulliver, he goes onto it, doesn't he? Every second word's the F word.
There's actually something that I keep saying to Sarah now. It's the what was it? He says, somebody asks him, "Can you believe that?" And he goes, "Believe."
I think there's so many great quotes in this book, and I've got a few written down we can go through later, but I think it's like a really quotable book. It's one of the reasons I keep coming back to it. It's like not just because it's funny, there's also like a lot of really profound quotes in this as well. And in isolation, some of them sound like the kind of things that people share on like a background in a Facebook meme, but I think like the sincerity with which this book is approached makes them feel all really genuine and makes it feel really heartfelt. So I've alluded to anyway, we meet Isabel, Newton and Gulliver. These are our secondary characters, really. What did you think about this cast of characters? I
mean, yeah, it's kind of when the narrator is like an extraterrestrial or like some other life form, it's kind of hard to get interested in the other characters. But I think, but Gulliver especially, there's something there resounded with, is that the word, with me in his story, and I wanted to see how he would kind of to know his dad in a sense, because he doesn't really know his dad. So I found that whole thing really interesting. And Isabel, though, I'm not really sure what to say about her. She's kind of there as like the foil to the alien's madness. And Newton's just fantastic.
Yeah,
because you get to see what the dog's thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I love the where they bond over peanut butter at their interaction, their talk as well. Newton and Andrew.
Well, he also cures him of what is it he has, like arthritis or something.
Yeah.
So like in terms of cast of characters, it is kind of, I don't know, not huge, and you kind of still see everything through the eyes of the extraterrestrial, so I don't really know what to say about the other cast.
Yeah, I mean, the son, I wasn't really a big fan of the son. Like, obviously I know the character that he's going for, because he's kind of, the son's neglected, never got along with the dad until now is the alien. I do like that actual story. It just, I feel like the son's kind of, I don't know, he's just, he's one of those, he's at that age, that adolescent age, where he just like hates everyone and everything kind of thing. So, I just don't like that. But the actual topic of how yeah, the son and even the marriage between Isabel and Andrew wasn't great until now this aliens come on. So yeah, I think the secondary characters of the family kind of serve that purpose well of creating that story. And I suppose too that as he as the alien he finds everything strange, but I think Isabel and Gulliver are kind of the first two things that and the dog are the first things that he starts to actually appreciate about humans. Like that Isabel's like beautiful, and I don't know, he likes, obviously I think the dog might be the first because of that bond with the peanut butter and stuff, but and then eventually Gulliver as well, because obviously his task in the book is to eliminate them, but I think that purpose there, those characters were good for creating that story.
Yeah, I definitely like them all as characters. I can see what you're saying about Gulliver, Jonathan. It reminds me of something people say about Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, where they complain about all the teenage angst, and it's like J.K. Rowling like got teenagers so right that it's annoying how right she got them, because like she's perfectly exemplifying what teenagers are like. So I can see that, like Gulliver is so accurate to a teenager that it makes him annoying, because he has all that angst. I've heard people say the same thing about like a book like Catcher in the Rye, where there's so much angst and it's so accurately portrayed that it puts some people off. But I like Gulliver as a character because I feel like teenage characters a lot can just be minimized to their moodiness, and it can say like when they're unhappy it's like, oh, it's just teenage hormones. I like the fact that Gulliver is reflected as being depressed and has conflict, his inner conflict, isn't minimized in any way. He's shown as being suicidal. It's all taken very seriously in the book. And I really like his relationship with the narrator. I think it's a really interesting bond, and the way he helps Gulliver through it was compelling to me.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like it was just great to see that. I think we said this already, but he doesn't really have a relationship with his actual father, right? The real Andrew, but this alien comes along and he suddenly starts to have develop that relationship, and we get to see that progress, and that was fascinating.
Yeah, I know it's like a tragic relationship too, because it's like he had a father, but this alien who barely knows the way of humanity is more of a father to him than his real father ever was.
Yeah.
And I like the relationship with Isabel too. She's just, all we really know about Isabel is that she's smart, really. And but the relationship I did find it really compelling as well. I thought it was really genuine. And when at the end, when they're like, when the narrator commits the infidelity with the student, and then they go their separate ways, they break up, I did find it quite tragic, especially how Andrew's left alone. It did feel like a lot was lost from his life. You could feel the weight of that. And Newton as well, I loved their relationship together, especially, I've already talked about that peanut butter scene. That's one of my favourite scenes as well.
I don't want your love.
Sharing their love. Yeah.
Love that.
You touched on too, Stephen, there's another character really to talk about, and main characters, and that is Andrew Martin, the real Andrew Martin, who we don't really meet, but we get a good impression of what he was like, that he was just kind of coasting through life and wasn't really present, and he wasn't there for his family at all, really.
Yeah, he's clearly a smart guy, obviously, right? Because he solved this mathematical thing, and he's a professor of maths and everything. But I mean, he seems like a really, for lack of a better term, he just seems like a really unlikable guy.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I found that really interesting too. That the alien. An alien who's like everything's so strange to him and whatever is more relatable to the family than the actual human Andrew Martin.
Yeah.
Which was, he clearly seems like a guy you don't really I wouldn't want to know.
Yeah. I think like the fact that the narrator can so easily impersonate him too shows how like how little of a personality he had too, that he didn't really connect with anybody.
Yeah, even his best mate, what's his name, Ari, doesn't even notice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
I think the thing I like about what he was the maths professor, and obviously that's where my background lies. So I really, it's maybe not so much on him, but I really love the maths kind of background of this book. And I actually quite like the enthusiasm of the alien about it. So because he always talks about the prime numbers and things like that. And I think there's one good quote about that was like, if someone like music is just counting but you don't know it, which I thought was quite good. So he's kind of like their civilization just believes everything is mathematics. I feel like that situation, like Andrew Martin probably would have been better to have been the alien and live in that world, and the alien is better to have been the human. Do you know what I mean? Whereas they're obviously born in different places, they would suit, yeah. Because Andrew Martin, he seemed to not really have too much love for his son or his wife, which is the alien race that they describe doesn't. They don't have partners, or they're just kind of like interested in mathematics and things. So yeah, I feel like that's where he kind of belonged, was with there, and yeah, the alien should have been with the humans.
Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That is something I wanted to ask you, Jonathan, because you did study mathematics at a quite a high level. Did you hear about were you familiar with like the Riemann hypothesis or anything like that? And did you find like that aspect of the book? What did you find interesting about it?
Yeah, I'd never actually heard about it before. I don't know that. I'm not even sure if it's been proved or not. I'm actually just going to have a quick look here, but
sounds like something an alien that's trying to pretend to be a human would say.
Sweating nervously now.
Yeah, I think they're it's not going to be like a formula that's going to do exactly what they said, but I'm not sure why he chose this. It seemed like he'd done a lot of his homework. Matt Haig, actually at the very end of the book, there's like a chapter of his next book as well, and it's also kind of science fiction-y, but it also, he was also using like real scientific terminology, but I think in this book he uses a lot of mathematical terminology. But yeah, I'm not sure, and I've never actually heard about this Riemann hypothesis. To be honest, I actually thought that he'd made it up in the book. So
right, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know why you would want to use a real thing, because then that's kind of not as make believe. Because I feel like there's this hypothesis was proved.
People might poke holes on it. Yeah.
Yeah, there'd be no. I mean, if this is unproven right now, and proving it, would that give us this power? I don't even know anything about it, but no, I did really enjoy the mathematical terminology that he was brought up.
I'm reading up about this hypothesis and it's all going over my head.
Yeah, I tried to read the Wikipedia for like some kind of take on trivia, but I was not getting anywhere with it, to be honest.
Well, I'm going to have a read here. In the meantime, I'm sure I'll come back to me in the trivia section.
Sure, if you solve it, let me know. The
But then I'll be putting your life in danger.
At the start, I've touched on that he does find humans disgusting, repulsive, and he sees that they're very irrational and there's war going on and everything, and it's very hard to argue against the alien logic, I think, of humans shouldn't be able to travel through space, because if I was an alien species, I would feel threatened by humanity being able to reach me very suddenly.
Well, what is it that he says? He says they're not emotionally ready or something, right? Their emotional level isn't advanced enough to be ready for advancements in technology or whatever that solving this hypothesis would bring. So yeah, you don't. If you think about it, like if you were an alien, you don't really want a man-child civilization going through the universe, fighting everybody.
Yeah, they're not psychologically ready for their advancement, is what the aliens are kind of. That's their logic, and that this act that this individual alien has of murdering anybody who knows about this discovery, it's completely justified because it's going to save so many more lives.
I would agree. I think they sort of have the right of it, but they're also wrong because the way they go about it is killing people, like that we know have nothing to do with it. Just to like tie up any loose ends. Like they want to get rid of Isabel, and Gulliver obviously knows that his dad solved it, right? But he doesn't have the answers or anything. But they still want to kill him for just because, and the third Andrew Martin comes along and he kills Harry and whatever, and so their methods leave a bit to be desired, but I think the point was solid.
Yeah, because that is something that the narrator comes around himself, because he is originally on board with the mission, but then he starts to read poetry, starts to listen to a lot of music. Talking Heads and stuff is brought up a lot. Starts to eat peanut butter with Newton, starts to make a bond with Gulliver and Isabel, and starts to see that. And I think he argues back then, because they don't seem to be able to read his mind, but they seem to be able to hear everything that he says. So they do communicate with him several times through the book, the other aliens, and he argues with them that humans are more complex and they need to reevaluate things. Again, I could see his point there. It made sense that that they were being unreasonable. There was new information here, that he had seen a lot of good in humanity within the nuance within the individuals.
I mean, that's I don't know. The whole thing with the sort of superiors to the narrator, right, was a bit weird for me. Because the whole time I was kind of thinking that this is why I alluded to this earlier, that maybe he did actually have like a psychotic episode and this is all in his head. So I was kind of battling that, being like, is he really talking to people? Or
yeah, I did have that thought this read through. I was wondering, could it be interpreted that way? I was kind of on the lookout for things like that, for clues, if it could possibly be interpreted as that.
Yeah, for the record, I don't think that's the case, but I just thought when I was listening to it, I thought, I kept coming back to, but are they really there though? When they they kind of take over his body and they go to kill Isabel. I was like, did they though, or was he just a bit mad? But it was like, I don't know. Because they're supposed to be, right, so they're supposed to be this super logical species, right? But as you said, a lot of the things that they do are illogical,
Oh, like one of the big themes about the book here is suicide. It's Matt Haig, he wrote like sort of a memoir, self-help book that I've read as well, called Reasons to Stay Alive, where he talks a lot about his own mental health issues and battles, and a lot of the medication that he's been on. It's referenced in this book as well. He even makes a joke, kind of a meta joke near the beginning, about insane things humans do. One of them being writing a semi-autobiographical novel. So he kind of explores this mainly through the character of Gulliver, who we first get an indication that he may have suicidal tendencies when he's standing and he's near a train, and he seems to be, for my interpretation anyway, seems to be contemplating stepping out in front of the train. Then later he jumps off a roof after taking all 28 diazepam from Andrew's medication. I felt like, because I have the perspective of reading that memoir as well, I knew that it was coming from a very personal place, and I could feel that, and it was like a good emotional core to the book, and I'm glad that he touched a subject that's usually taboo in a lot of fiction with such like vulnerability and honesty.
Yeah, I did. I think that was well handled, but it's also because it's not from Gulliver's perspective. It's kind of not glossed over, but it's not as in depth as if it was from his would be if it was from his perspective. Especially the bit with the train, that's kind of just not talked about again. But obviously the roof part, that's kind of key. that's a key scene because obviously then Gulliver knows something's up, and
I think like the train scene, all it really serves is like foreshadowing to the roof scene, isn't it? It's just.
It also the train scene at that stage. Andrew Martin, or the alien, doesn't really. He needs to kill Gulliver, and he actually is kind of like, oh, he might do it himself here. So he's kind of happy that this boy might commit suicide to, serve his own purpose of he doesn't have to do it then. Whereas by the roof stage, he now actually saves him from doing it because he cares about him at this stage. So the contrast between the two times as well.
Yeah.
I also think the topic of bullying was like well handled in the book, because he's obviously Gulliver's bullied a lot, because, well, I think it even happened before his dad kind of went off the rails, but or it's alluded to that it did anyway, because he's so upset and everything.
Yeah, he's been battling his demons for a while, and there's this scene where like the narrator kind of he convinces Gulliver to confront his bullies. So I think they're sitting. That's that's the part where you were talking about the diazepam scene.
That's just after, yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Just even that scene was great, where he's just the narrator just goes to the bully, "You will lose." That was great. But yeah, like he gets him to confront his bullies and sort of stand up to them and make a change in a way. I think that's what that scene was showing.
Yeah, that's why I find Gulliver a good character. It's not necessarily that he was a good character on his own, but that he and the narrator had a good relationship. And I think that's like the key to all the characters in this book. It's all how they interact with the narrator that kind of makes them feel more fleshed out than what they are as individuals. It's the actual relationship that feels fleshed out more than the characters.
Yeah.
So the narrator, he comes to bond with the humans more, and he eventually realizes that he can't carry out his mission. He tries to convince them that the hosts, that Isabel and Gulliver, don't pose an actual threat. There is somebody he does kill after this. He murders this mentor figure, Daniel. That was quite a dark moment in the book because he basically makes it look like a heart attack. What did you guys think of that? Did anything like that go too far or anything, do you think? Or
no, I don't think it went too far, but I did like his sort of reaction to that, because that's sort of where he starts changing a lot. I think he kills that guy and he's like, well, it kind of has an impact on him. But he watched him die or something. Yeah,
he sees like kind of how precious life is, especially from Daniel's partner's reaction.
Yeah, his wife,
and how the funeral is and everything. Yeah, that's definitely a big part in how he changes. So it's the part that I was talking about. Then he eventually decides he can't carry out that mission because that would involve killing both Isabel and Gulliver. So he decides he makes this decision to become fully human and leave his extraterrestrial powers behind. So he's given up his immortality and his ability to travel beyond Earth. He just becomes like a normal person. What did you think about that decision? Did it like make thematic sense and everything at that point? And
at that point, yeah, it did, because he, as you said, he's bonded with these people and he sees the value in being a human and everything, and he wants to live that life. So it did make sense. Yeah, I was really interested about you called them powers, but he kept calling them gifts for some reason, and I wanted to know more about the gifts. Like what do they do? What are they? Who were they gifted by? Sort of thing. Obviously the overlords or whatever. I can't remember. He did give them a name, but I can't remember what it is. the overseers.
There's a moment where he meets the man on the bench who tells him that he's Winston Churchill.
Oh yeah, but, the homeless guy.
Yeah, he has a pain in his leg, and he goes to heal it, but he can't anymore. So I'm assuming that was part of his gifts anyway.
Yeah, he just touches his leg.
Yeah, so it's just awkward then.
You see, you know what I really liked? Even like small characters like Winston. I'm gonna call him Winston because I don't think we find out his real name.
No, I don't think we do.
But so the guy obviously like lies to the narrator and says his name's Winston Churchill. But then at the very end of the book, he reappears. The narrator still refers to him as Winston, which I thought was brilliant. Just the small detail and that I really liked. And he says, "Don't, as long as you don't touch my leg again."
Yeah, I think the small characters, anybody who's there for just a few pages, they're so quirky that they all seem to have their moment to shine.
Yeah.
If just to ask, did you notice? I think he says that his favorite prime number is 97, and at the end of the book, the list that he gives to Gulliver, of things to do, it's got 97 items on it.
Right.
Yeah, because I thought that was quite a nice chapter that where he just lists all 97. So he's basically just going. You would always think that would be boring, but some of those points in that list are actually quite good. Quotes. Yeah, I just wanted to bring the list up. Yeah.
That chapter with the lists. I said this to my partner, as if somebody had given me that book when I was a teenager, it would have blew my mind. That list. It's like a really good summary.
It's so good. Yeah.
The fact that it's like told from this extraterrestrial perspective, it just makes it even better.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you guys are in agreement that was a good chapter, because I could see people saying something like that's too much or it's out of place or something, but I think it is, like, even more so than so I'll talk about more about how this book ends. So Andrew, he's a normal person then. The narrator posing as Andrew is a normal person. He commits, like, Andrew was having an affair before any of this plot began. So the alien continues that, not realizing that what monogamy is or anything, not realizing that he is committing this act of infidelity. He tells Isabel about it in, like, casual conversation. She tells him to get out. Somebody else is sent to finish the mission in Andrew's place, another alien, and he basically goes to save them. He does so successfully, and then that's how Gulliver finds out the truth about all of this, that his father has been dead for a while. That's why he's been acting so differently and everything.
So I thought that scene was really key as well. The part where the third Andrew appears, right? And Gulliver, he's in the house. The two of them are in the house with Gulliver, and they basically, the narrator and Gulliver have to kill this other one. I thought that was really, like, important for Gulliver as a character, because he hates his dad, right? He doesn't like his father, the real Andrew Martin, and he's got all these problems with him. So there was sort of the killing of.
There's a lot of symbolism of that. Yeah. Definitely. I see what you're saying.
The killing of his father is sort of symbolic, yeah, because it's, dealing with everything, that all the feelings they had pent up for his real father. Yeah, I
think you're completely spot on, Stephen. I've read this book 3 times and I've never really thought about that as being symbolic, but I think you're completely right pointing it out now. It seems like very intentional.
Yeah, it's sort of, by doing so, he sort of faces a lot of his demons, or, well, sort of gets rid of that sort of pent up anger that he has towards his father. Yeah,
I definitely agree. I think that was definitely Matt Haig's intent. Now that you point that out, so Andrew commits what is a horrific act amongst his species, and he kills one of his own species to save Isabel and Gulliver. He kind of goes off then and lives his own life. He talks about a lot of his experiences. He's grows a beard, gains some weight, reads a lot more poetry, drinks wine and stuff. And then at the end, we're kind of but before that, actually, the list comes before that, doesn't it? Because he leaves the list before he goes off.
Yeah.
So the chapter with the list, it's like a list of advice to Gulliver, and it's 97 items. And as I was saying, I think people could argue that maybe this is too much, and it disrupts the flow of a book, and something like this shouldn't be involved in a book, but I did think this, even more so than the confrontation, I think this was the big climax of the book. And I loved this chapter. I thought it was so good. I thought there are so many profound points in this and so many funny points and everything. And you guys said that you enjoyed this chapter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favourite chapter as well of the book. It's so some of the points here, they're so quotable. And yeah, there's funny. It's kind of like it jumps around in topics of the points. It's kind of like some are funny and then some are sad, or some is just like really good advice kind of thing. I just thought, it was a brilliant chapter.
So what resonated for me with this chapter, right, is that he's leaving advice. An alien is leaving advice to a human on how to be a human, right? So the Gulliver as a teenager is in a way an alien to the other teenagers that he would spend most of his time with, right? Which sort of resonated with me as well from my own past, right? Because I sort of felt like that too. So that's what I was saying. If I had been given this book as a teenager, the list of 97 pieces of advice would have been amazing. Even though a lot of them are dumb, some of them are proper pieces of advice. And I think it was really nice to see that the sort of swap in role, where Gulliver is like an alien and the narrator is giving him human advice. I thought it was nice to see.
Yeah, because I saw like most of the reviews I've read for this book are so positive, but I read one that was positive, but it like mentioned how this list was a bit cliche, and I was just like, how dare you? It's just like, because I think
well, it is, but it's a good chapter.
To me, like a cliche is when somebody says it's raining cats and dogs, because like when somebody originally thought of that imagery, they said, oh, it's raining cats and dogs. You had this image of like this chaotic scene of cats and dogs falling out of the sky, and that's how bad it's raining. But that term is used so many times, it becomes a cliche and it loses its power. So people say it without really acknowledging what it means, and it doesn't bring an image in your mind anymore. And to me, that's the issue with cliches. But when somebody means something and it's this big thematic punch in a story, then it no longer is cliche. And that's, I would take exception to just that part of that person's review of calling it cliche.
Well, now that you say it, like I actually want to take back what I said. I don't think it is cliche at all, because it's so. I think you mentioned this before. When do you ever see this sort of thing in a book, really? Yeah,
exactly. I think like the fact it's so out of place like adds to its power kind of as well, because it kind of draws you in more to pay attention. You're like, well, what's this? That's happening now.
Yeah. And I also think it's a real advice that Matt Haig's trying to get out there too.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to put that out there.
Yeah. And then after this list, it's kind of it goes on to what his life is after, and then it kind of leaves with this this talk with Gulliver, where he seems to be going back home, where they're gonna give it a try to see if this works or anything. Obviously, he's an alien species. He's not the father, not the husband, so we don't know if it's going to be weird, if it's not going to last or anything. But it's kind of sort of a happy ending. It's open ended to be possibly a happy ending. What did you guys think of the ending?
I liked the ending, but it made me want more. I wanted a sequel, but I also think a sequel would be a bad idea, so I'm kind of conflicted. I liked that it sort of ended on that cliffhanger, where you don't know whether he got back with Isabel or what. It's just sort of alluded to that he goes there. You never see him speaking again or anything. He does speak to Gulliver, but which I thought was really nice, because you can see that he took some of that advice on board, and he even remembers it, because doesn't he give one of the pieces of advice back to him?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
I can't remember what it was either, but there's something there where he they meet up again, and he says it back to him. But yeah, it was nice to see that Gulliver, the description of Gulliver made it clear that he had changed since, what was it, a year? Maybe it was more, I can't actually remember. But that he's gone through a sort of change in his life, and he's more I don't know what I'm trying to say.
He's more put together, kind of. He's not fighting as many demons,
Which tells me that he did take that advice on board, and yeah, it worked for him. So I liked the ending. I thought it was a nice ending. Yeah, but it did leave me with that feeling of wanting more, more to the story. But
No, yeah, I enjoyed the ending too. I thought the fact, yeah, like it kind of has that conversation with Gulliver, and Gulliver's like, um, basically Isabel wants you back, kind of thing. So in that sense, you don't know if Gulliver's just saying that because Gulliver wants him back, and he's just like, whatever I can say to get you back here. So I think at the very least we know that Gulliver wants him around. So hopefully, I like to think that regardless of what happens between him and Isabel, he'll be around then for Gulliver still. But yeah, no, I like that it's left for the interpretation. I just think like a proper happy ending's it's a bit too cheesy sometimes. So I feel like, yeah, just leaving it open ended like that is better.
Yeah, I agree with you there. It could have tied it up too neatly, and it wouldn't have felt right. I think leaving it open to interpretation like that was the right move for this, and I think it was a pretty good ending. What did you guys? So just as final thoughts here, as we're going together, what did you guys think like the theme of this book was? What do you think like Matt Haig was trying to communicate with his overall thoughts of this book? I can go first anyway if you want, because I have a thought on this, and I'm just going to read I was going to read a few of the quotes, but there's so many I can't really read that many because it would just be reciting the whole book. It's so full of profound stuff and everything. But I think the meaning of this book, the theme of this book is like summed up in point 81 in that list, and it says, "You can't find happiness looking for the meaning of life. Meaning is only the third most important thing. It comes after loving and being." And I think that is like what the book is communicating. It's like, it's the importance of just being a human, and that's what we have. That's our ultimate thing, our experience as a human. The small mundane things it's even more important than our grand meaning and our grand strive, whatever humanity is going towards. Just the fact of existing is such a huge thing. And I think the book is trying to bring appreciation towards that fact that it talks about. It's a thought that I've had growing up as well. It's like the impossibility of you existing. Like it talks about how mathematically unlikely it is that you ever should have existed. Because if anybody in your ancestral line, anybody in the evolutionary line had done anything different, you would never have experienced anything. So it's just this profound. It's just this person who struggled clearly with mental health issues coming to terms with the fact that they've spent a lot of their life unhappy, but they're glad to be, and how important it is to be human. And that's what I think is at the heart of this book.
yeah, I didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't really think about it until you asked me the question. There, but I would 100% agree with what you said.
I think I completely agree with what you said. Yeah, it's mostly like people are searching for a meaning of life for humans. I think he started to start talking about, or last week we looked at Space Odyssey, which is about humans' place, but most humans, don't even accept kind of their own situation. So it's kind of more, yeah, it's basically it's rooted in like an individual's perspective of like universe and all, not humans as a whole. So it, yeah, I think it is a very kind of goes with that mental health kind of target in mind. Yeah, based on probably because of the author's own struggles. But because it's the chances of existing thing that all kind of got with me as well. There was a good, I can't remember the quote, but it was just kind of like the chances of you existing. He goes through then he's like, the chance of your parents getting together and then is like this amount, and then you would have to get that for 150 generations or whatever. And it kind of like shows you how unlikely it is. It's like it's more or less zero. So like if you say something's impossible, you're kind of saying yourself, like, because it has low odds, then you're saying that you're impossible because the chance of you existing was low odds. And I thought that quote was quite well. I can't remember the exact quote, but you know what I mean. Paraphrasing it. That was, I think, kind of summed up the whole book then.
Yeah, no, I love that quote as well. That would be one of my favorite quotes from this book. I think there's another one that's very similar to that too, when he talks about humanity, like believing in things like God, and how he can understand that, because how when they're so improbable, it makes sense that they would just believe in something that's only slightly less probable than their existence, which I thought was like a very profound take on why there's religion and stuff. It's
Just one thing I wanted to ask, if you can remember, which is your favourite piece of advice from the Advice for Humans chapter? Do you want to give me? Do you want me to give you mine?
yeah.
I can't remember which number it is or the exact quote, but it goes like something like, "No one will understand you, but that's not important. What's important is that you understand you." And I thought that was really nice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good
And
one.
true.
Definitely. Yeah, I think maybe the one I quoted, number 81, was probably the one that spoke to me the most. The one about being, especially because I've been like, this year I've been like meditating a lot and learning like how to be present. So it speaks to that, to just appreciating your experience and your being in the moment more.
There's a good one here. I'm just reading it to myself. I didn't write down my favourite one, but there's one here. It's maybe kind of very relevant to humans today. You know, with global warming and things like that, or war and all. That's, you know, I think we have this kind of conception that one day technology will just get so good that we won't have to worry about it. You know, you're just kind of like, don't worry about global warming because technology's going to sort it out for us anyway. We'll advance our technology and get there, which could be true, because, you know, technology, or need, like, is what leads to better advances in technology when you actually need it. But the quote does, that technology won't save humankind, humans will. It's saying, like, you know, it's not, don't rely on the technology to save it. You know, the humans have to do it themselves.
I agree. You know, I think so many things from that list you could point out about. I think about 20 things from that list were just really, really good. Like, so many of them were just comedic, but yeah, I would agree with your picks, definitely.
Oh, so I have one more quote here.
Yeah, go ahead.
This one is my favourite one now that I've actually went and read through them here. It's don't aim for perfection. Evolution in life only happens through mistakes.
Oh, I love that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my favourite one.
Yeah,
so
that's a good one.
Just putting that out there. I claimed it.
But this is what I'm saying. There's so many good quotes on there that you show that to a teenager, and I think that'll just change their life. Well, maybe not in every case.
I even when I first read this book about 4 years ago, it was like I was on a place where this spoke really, really profound, where I needed.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wouldn't help, you know, an older person. I'm just saying.
No, I know what I know. Yeah,
those sort of teenage years is
particularly. Yeah. Okay, so I think we're going to go on to star rating then. So we will start with Stephen.
Oh, it's got to be a 5. I really like this book, and it's up there with one of my all time favorite books. So I'm going to give it a 5, 100%. Are we doing narrators?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, because we didn't really touch on it in the review. So I suppose we should talk here about Mark Meadows as well. What did you think of his performance?
I thought it was incredible. He's definitely a 5 out of 5 as well. I think it made the book so much better. Obviously I can't say for certain because I haven't physically read it, but his portrayal of the narrator and everything was amazing. Just even the way he says certain words or certain phrases was just perfect. It just enhanced that character so much more, because his speech is alien as well, just the way he says things and the cursing and everything. it was top notch. I'm going to give it a 5 across the board.
Yeah, so the book, so usually for most books for me are kind of like, read a story and kind of escape, the real kind of thing, whereas it was not only a story that made me escape, but also had a lot of things that you could bring to real life, like all these quotes that we're going through, things that I think would actually speak to your real life, as well as being a kind of story you can enjoy. And I don't think I've ever read a book quite like it. And the narrator, I thought he was fantastic at, especially doing that kind of alien voice of not really like conveying that he doesn't really understand what he's saying, like when he's saying like the F words and stuff like that a lot, things like that. So I think he did a great job. So yeah, I'm going to give this a 5. I thought it was, yeah, it's definitely up there now. Probably one of my most favorite books ever that I've read or listened to.
I'm really happy that you recommended it, Michael. I think it's so good.
No, I'm really glad you guys liked it. It's I don't even really have to give my rating, but I will anyway, because like as I've said, I've reread this book 3 times, and I'm gonna reread it many times throughout my life if I'm lucky enough to live long enough to read it many times. But yeah, I think it's appropriate to rate this book with a prime number, so I'm gonna give it 5 out of 5.
Very good.
I love this book. It spoke to me on such a profound level when I first read it, and subsequent readings have been great too. I will always return to this book. It is one of my favorite books. That's why I wanted to do this one. Mark Meadows, Stephen, you said you think that he would elevate the material, but you haven't read the text. I have read the book, and I can 100% corroborate that, where Mark Meadows
it does
definitely elevates this book to the next level. His performance is amazing. His comedic timing is so good. It's like nearly, you think that he's written this book. It's nearly mind blowing that he hasn't because he feels so attached to the material. It feels like he has the author. But yeah, I thought his inflections and everything he did in this book was incredible. I would also tie him onto that 5. I guess we'll go on to... There's not really anything to say unless you want to bring up anything comparison to other media.
Oh, well, just before we move on, I just remember something. When you recommended the book in the last episode, I seem to remember you saying that you thought it would divide opinions.
Yeah. Well...
Which obviously it didn't.
Yeah, I don't know, because the reason I said that was because I was wondering do I love this book because I'm projecting a lot of myself onto it? And I don't know if that's the reason I loved it, or if it was a genuinely brilliant book. So I don't know, but yeah, that,
because when you said that, I was thinking, oh, he thinks I'm going to hate this book.
It's just
right. That was my automatic go-to, and then I started listening to it. So I was like 10 minutes in. I was out with the dog, and I realized I was loving it, and I thought, maybe he thought Jonathan's going to hate this book.
No, I
why?
don't know if it how you would take it, if what I loved about it was like just personal, or if it would be universally loved.
Okay, that's interesting. I was just wondering, yeah.
So, comparison to other media, there is no, as far as I'm aware, there's no movie to this book. I
would love to see.
Yeah. Matt Haig, he's getting a lot bigger. This actually isn't his most popular book. His most popular book is called The Midnight Library, which I haven't read yet. So that could be something we do in the future. And the only thing I could think of in comparing this to other media is that the beginning sort of reminded me of Elf. I don't know if I said that in my review. It's where Buddy the Elf goes through all the coffee shops and everything. It sort of reminded me of the beginning of this book. But yeah, there's no movie to this book yet. Matt Haig does have other books, and he's becoming more and more popular with everything he writes, so I'm sure there will be...
If Mark Meadows doesn't play the narrator, I'm going to be upset.
Matt Haig actually has a Christmas book that is narrated by Stephen Fry. Just putting it out there.
Oh, nice.
It's coming up to Christmas. But so I guess we'll move on to trivia. Do either of you guys have any trivia? Because I could not find anything.
I don't take the time to look up it.
No, I think we've quoted it a lot. They cover
the
trivia side of things.
As I said, he wrote a book called Reasons to Stay Alive, which was like a sort of a memoir, sort of a self-help book melded together. It is a good read if anybody wants like additional... If somebody wants to stay with this message, kind of, they want more of this message in a more direct way, I would definitely recommend that book anyway. But we couldn't figure out what the Riemann hypothesis was, so and within our episode. So
well, I did.
Well, nobody can though, right?
I did.
I don't know what it is, but
Jonathan can't reveal it.
I did read a wee bit about it there. So it actually is like a mathematical thing that hasn't been proved, but it says if it was proved, it would be like it's one of the most important things that hasn't been discovered yet. So I think the importance of it is kind of, you know, he must have got that from there. But like I don't think it's going to like advance our technology in any way. I think it's more like it's in pure mathematics. I think it's more of just
so what it would actually do was fiction, like the space travel and that was science fiction.
Yeah.
Well, you said it's one of the most important mathematical things. Why though? Can you give us a quick reason why?
Like, no, I haven't read enough to understand it. I think it's what it says is it's one of the most important unsolved proofs. It's essentially it does exact what he described it as. It'll show you the distribution, like, because primes seem to, like, you know, there's, as you go up in primes, the gap between them seems to change like differently. There's no pattern to it, and it's the closest thing we have to kind of like, he has this it's like a series, and when you expand the series, it closely models the increase of prime numbers, but I don't think anyone's actually, like, you know, you could, and numbers run for that, so to actually prove something, you have to show that it can work for any number. So that this can show that it works for every prime, and you can't just do that by going like up through all the numbers, because, you know, you can't ever get to the end. So you have to like come up with a definitive proof to show that, you know, it's going to work for every number. It doesn't matter what the number is, which obviously is pretty difficult in this case. But that's about as much as I know about it.
No, that seems handy enough. I've written down the answer here.
Oh yeah.
must send it on to whoever.
Put it onto the chat.
Send it
we can broadcast it.
Send it into the boys.
Yeah. The
math men.
So I guess we will move on to what else are we reading / consuming. I've been always starting with you this episode, Stephen, so I'll start with Jonathan this time.
Yeah, so TV shows, I'm not really watching too much. I'm just working on House of the Dragon at the minute to watch the first episode, but yeah, hopefully trying to get through that, because I haven't actually heard any spoilers about it or anything yet, which is quite unbelievable.
Yeah, same.
Considering it's been out for so long. But
yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know if people maybe they just respect the sanctity of the Game of Thrones kind of no spoilers. I'm not sure, but
or maybe we're just well trained not to see them.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I think if anything pops up my timeline, I just browse over it straight away. So but no, that's in terms of TV. I'm actually reading a book called Soulbonder by Michael.
Oh, really?
It's the one that you brought up last week, Michael. It's so I've read the first 2 chapters, and yeah, I'm actually quite enjoying it so far. Yeah, it's quite good.
Nice. Okay.
But yeah, it's like the epic kind of fantasy genre. But it's I'm enjoying that. I'm trying to get a chapter a day done. Just reading it on that Wattpad. And yeah, no, I'm enjoying that. But I'm actually
nice.
Now most of my time is going on. I'm actually beginning to do some game development work in my spare time. So I'm hoping I'm still learning at the minute, but I'm going to hope they create and release a game at some stage in the future. So I'll hopefully be bringing that up on this podcast eventually. But yeah, that's a lot of my time into that at the minute.
You want help on that? Can I get on that?
Yeah, of course. I've actually already discussed with Michael as well. Michael's going to help with the story side of things.
Yeah, I've got a few ideas I'll shoot your way. Like, I've got synopsis. And
then we'll have to start a gaming podcast then, I guess.
Yeah, like, it's always something I've tried a few times to create different games here and there, but I always get distracted by something else.
There's a lot of time goes on there. Like, I think if something comes up, like, it's hard to commit so much time to it anymore.
Yeah,
and also because it's not what I've trained in. It's kind of adjacent to my time. So there's a lot of stuff that I don't have the ability to do.
Yeah, I'm actually doing it because I wanted to learn C, and there wasn't really that many good things to apply it to, and people do most game programming in C++, but I was just like, you know what, I'll just do a game to help me learn C, and it's actually quite good. Because you just use the same thing that C++ people use, the same like libraries and stuff. It's just you don't have the object oriented side of the program. But no, I'm quite enjoying it. It's good for learning. They kind of have that project to work on. But no, yeah, hopefully I'll get more into it. Like I'm just at the minute, I'm building games that have kind of already been done. You know, to kind of working through a course kind of thing. But yeah, we're gonna aim then to create our own thing. So yeah, we'll sit and brainstorm that one day.
Nice, yeah.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, that's all for me.
Yeah, so as in terms of like TV and stuff, I'm still watching Andor every week. I think there's one more episode to go. I'm excited to see that. It's great. Love it. I tried to watch the new season of The Crown, but I couldn't really get into it. I don't know if you guys have watched the other seasons, but it was pretty good. Let me think what else. I'm a Celebrity's on at the minute. Watching that every night. That's an enjoyable one. Listening to Clash of Kings, second book in the Song of Ice and Fire series. It's going well. Let me think what else. And then I guess since Jonathan touched on it, I'm currently learning Rust, Rustlang, different programming language at the minute. So I'm doing a lot of background reading on that, and it's a bit heavy going, to be honest, but enjoying it. It's a fun one to work in. So
yeah, nice one. Yeah, so I'm also watching House of Dragon. I started it. I've only done the first 3 episodes, but it's really I find it really refreshing to watch political Game of Thrones again after all the high fantasy stuff. But I might be an unpopular opinion because I've heard some people in my work being like, "Oh, I hate the politics." It's like, but I'm like, I find it a nice change of pace at the moment.
No, I would agree.
Yeah, that's where all the story lies is on the politics, whereas the fantasy is more about the just kind of sucking on the people that love the Marvel kind of franchises. You know, just the big cinematic kind of stuff.
Definitely.
Fair weather people, Jonathan.
That's it.
The true fan.
I started watching Andor as well, but I've only watched the first 2 episodes, so I don't have many thoughts on it other than it's very well made and I am hooked at the minute. But maybe I'll have more to say on it as I get deeper into it. I just wanted to mention too, if just in relation to this book, The Humans, if you want like other things that I've watched that are like existential kind of thematic, if you're looking for more stuff like that, if you have seen the Pixar movie Soul, I would recommend that. It's quite, especially for a children's movie, it's quite existential and shares a lot of themes with this. There was a book.
Really?
Yeah. Sorry, not a book. There was a movie came out. I think it was. I don't know if it was this year or last year, but Everything Everywhere All the Time. It's a really, really good movie. It's really, really funny, and it's like this as well. I don't want to say anything about it because it's so bonkers, and you just need to watch it. I don't want to give anything away about it.
What's it called?
I think it's Everything Everywhere All the Time. I highly recommend it. It's a great movie. I think it came out this year or it was last year. But yeah, and for working on, I've released a couple more scenes of my little online serial, Shadow Sisters. I've released the first episode of my audio podcast thing, The Dark Tales. So the first episode's up of that. It's just only gone onto Spotify there within the last couple of hours. Took them like 4 days to approve it, so we'll see. Anyway, I've already started recording like the second episode. I've got the story written for that and everything, and I've got the first draft of the third story written. The third story, it's actually slightly based on a time that we all spent together in a charity shop. So it's like it's a horror story based on a charity shop. So
basically just what happened there then.
Is it that time we put the doll in the window upstairs and got
that is an inspiration for it, yes, Stephen. Yes, that is the direct inspiration. I usually
sorry if I spoiled it there.
No. For horror stories I usually do use I take like something in real life and then I twist it into like a horror story. It's just the way my brain works for horror stories. I don't know why, but I've got like a lot of unwritten stories that I call like vault stories, and most of them are horror stories. I've got like 5 fantasies I want to write, and then there's like 100 horror stories.
Well, the upstairs of that building was terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
So
I've listened to the first 20 minutes of your first one, Michael. Story wise, I'm enjoying it. I think you've got like this voice in it, and it's just creeping me out like hell just hear your voice in that way. But
yeah,
I think it's very well done.
Do you full like narrate, like do you like the voice and everything?
Yeah. So I was like thinking, should I just, I wanted to get like narrate my books, but then I was like, but I want to get good at it first. And so I was like, should I just practice in private and all? And I was like, no, I'll just do a podcast and I'll practice as I go. So my apologies as I stumble through this podcast. It's partly practice, but I just want to have fun with it as well. But I give myself a very tough task with this first story because it's like, it's three female perspectives.
I know, it's free here.
And then there's an English character who comes into it, and my God, it was so tough. But and I just like, yeah, I just have fun with it. Like it's just a way to have fun and to practice for doing books then later down the road. So if you're interested in hearing me try to work my way through it,
I'll be listening to that straight after this. Happy days. That's good. That's really good.
I guess that's everything really in my episode.
There was one thing I wanted to plug that I forgot about. This was something that my sister told me about a while back now, but it's basically a resource for audiobooks.
Right.
So through like I think it's like the National Library or something, you can get free. They've a whole library of free books.
Right.
And you just need like a membership or whatever, and you have access to a bunch of different books.
Mm-hmm.
So just thought it'd be good to mention that those types of resources are out there in case people don't want to be spending.
Do you remember what that one was called, or we can?
Yeah, we can get a link.
What it was called?
Get a link.
Yeah,
Sure,
we'll put a link in the show notes there. Just on that topic too, I wanted to mention we do have a Twitter and an email. If you have any suggestions on books you think we should do, just email or tweet at us. We haven't received anything to do a listener mailbag section yet, but hopefully we can do that section on our next episode. Hopefully we have something to read. But just tweet at us or email us if you want us to cover anything. We're not sure how we're going to handle listener request episodes yet. It's still something we have to talk about as they come on, but right now we haven't received anything, so we're not too worried about sorting it out right now. But I'll put the email and the Twitter handle and the show notes as well. So that is it for my episode. I am going to pass the mantle now over to Stephen. It's going to be his pick for what we're doing for next episode.
Yeah, sure. So I told the guys before we started recording that I struggled to make a pick for this episode. I wanted to move out of the science fiction sort of realm, but I failed. so this is a book that I think it's like 2 years old. It's a couple of years old anyway, and it's written by an Irish fella from Belfast. The book is Reliance by Paul McMurray. And yeah, I don't want to talk too much more about it because it ruins the next game.
Yeah. Reliance.
Do you want to have a guess at what it's about? I don't want to show you the cover because as we normally do because I think it would give too much away.
Oh really? Okay. Reliance by Northern Irish, did you say as well?
Yeah.
Or just Irish?
Northern Irish, yeah.
Northern Irish. Do you want to go, Jonathan?
Reliance. That's a single word title. Like it's not.
It's alright.
It's extremely
completely
vague.
bonkers with your guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, just go mad, and I'll give the point to Michael because. Yeah.
You can't be biased in the amount of points that I have.
Okay, I won't.
I have a guess.
Right.
Okay. It's about this this guy who has a disability, and he has to become a mecha human. He has to have parts of his body replaced by an android, and he becomes a sort of RoboCop-like figure.
Okay. So Michael's guess is RoboCop. Okay.
Did you say what genre this was? Was it science fiction? You said
It's a science fiction. It's a science fiction.
Oh, that's actually quite a good, interesting guess. I feel like it's a some kind of computer generated world in which this guy loses himself in. And becomes heavily reliant. Like, so in this world he might have like certain powers, and then, you know, when he returns to the real world, it's, you know, not as good, and then he has trouble distinguishing between the two eventually.
So Michael says RoboCop, Jonathan says the Matrix.
Ready Player One. Or the Matrix, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good. Do you want to see the title and maybe, or the cover, and you can guess again? Just
yeah, give us a little look at it.
I guess straight away. I'm sure.
Where are you putting it?
I'll put it in our chat in the Discord.
The Discord.
Oh, so I'm gonna go first now. So
I'm not counting this for points, by the way. Just your original guesses. I'm going to take.
Yeah. So based on the cover, and I'll just maybe describe it here as well. So the cover is a light bulb that's kind of smashing, and like the process of being smashed. And then there's actually also a like sub kind of title that says "Powerless Earth," book 1.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that electricity is going to run out, which of course humans heavily rely on for everything medical. Basically everything nowadays. So yeah, it sounds quite interesting now.
Same.
But then what happens?
Same as Jonathan's guess. Only one of them becomes a mecha human.
The same as Jonathan, but RoboCop. Yeah.
And then
reverse RoboCop. Just cop. Okay, no, that's good. So yeah, our book is Reliance. Our next book is Reliance by Paul McMurray.
Who reads that?
It's narrated by Jonathan Harden.
Nice.
And it comes in at 6 hours and 24 minutes.
Sweet.
Still under the 10-hour mark then.
Yeah.
Happy
Nice.
days. All right. I guess we will. Oh, Stephen, you can do the outro. Sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
Is that how we do it?
I don't know. Did we? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I thought it was the new host as the outro.
I'll do it if you want. I'll do it if you want.
We'll just do us arguing about who does the outro. And then and the music.
yeah, no, do that. Do exactly that.
Yeah, that's grand then. See you later, everybody.
Bye.